And welcome, good evening, welcome to everyone, and welcome to the High Commissioner. It's the first time I'm meeting him. It's wonderful to be here to really commemorate Andrew and his achievements through a portrait done by Cameron today. The way in which we are going to have the evening is we're going to have a Q&A between Cameron and I. He's going to tell us about his work and what he found out about Andrew and so on. And then I'll introduce Andrew and he'll speak a little bit about himself and his work. But I just wanted to say the idea of having a portrait is a wonderful idea to commemorate a person. And thanks to the High Commission for having this evening, because it shows the mood of the person, it captures the person at a particular time in their life. And I think it also says a lot about the person doing the portrait, what they see, how they bring out the moods and the character of the person. And like Andrew, I came here 40 years ago to study. We lived in rooms, you in North London, me in South London. And, you know, to be here amongst Trinidadians commemorating Andrew and his work is an enormous achievement. I just want to give a round of applause to him. Because in the old days when we started out, we weren't that welcome here. But I think things have changed enormously over the years. And it's a very different society now. So we're going to kick off with Cameron and I having a chat, and him telling me about his work and what he found out, how he went about doing the portrait. At what point are we showing the portrait?
May I respectfully suggest that the High Commissioner unveils the portrait about now, so the conversation that you're both having will relate.
So you could see the picture. I think it's a good idea.
Excellent.
Thank you. Wow. Wonderful picture. Wonderful picture. Thank you so much for that. And
thank you.
You know, I say to Andrew, I say you might be 70, but you got the body of a 69-year-old for sure. Anyway, let's have a chat, Cameron. So I didn't know much about Cameron until I met him yesterday on the phone. So really, I had to find out a lot about him to have this conversation. So what I did, I read various things he wrote about what he did, and he sent me his LinkedIn profile, and then I sent some questions to him, and we said we're going to have a little chat about that. So let's just get the questions out.
So this is genuinely as spontaneous as it may look.
Yeah. So Cameron, tell me a little bit about your work, what you've done to date, and your work as an artist.
I've been an artist all my life. That has been a long journey of trying many different things. I've pottery, sculpture, portrait painting. I even tried comic book art early on.
Right.
And that actually informed my philosophy more than you might suspect. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But part of it has been finding the right thing for me to be doing for the right reasons that capture what other people are looking for.
Right.
And I have this curious idea that if one does the kind of work that they think other people want to see them doing, they may find some success. But if one does the work that they are desperately drawn to do, there will be people who want it for the same reasons you are drawn to doing it.
Right. So the portrait, you've done many portraits, I presume.
Yeah, a few hundred at this point, I believe.
Right. Is there a way in which you select people, or tell me a little bit about the sort of people you've done portraits of?
Some of it. I've done some portraits of living people. I've primarily done portraits of historical figures.
Right.
And this brings us back to the whole comic book origins thing. You see, I believe stridently in the potential of people as individuals. I believe in heroes. I believe the world needs more heroes. There's a curious thing where You are literally the center of the universe. No matter what Mom might have said when you were misbehaving, you are literally the center of the universe, because that is the only perspective from which you experience anything. Trouble is, so is everybody else.
Right.
But in addition to that, you are the hero of your own story, and everyone else is just an extra. I'm the hero of my story, and so on and so forth. And so, being a hero is a complicated thing.
Right.
And some people make the mistake of thinking that heroes are flawless people. And that's not the case at all. I believe in the potential of people, and I believe, take the Wellington Monument on Trafalgar Square. Well, Wellington made any number of choices that people do object to, and question whether or not he ought to be there and ought to be commemorated in that way. And my position is, even if a person's heroic moment lasted but a few minutes, it deserves to be called out, identified, and commemorated, so that everyone can point to it and say, that is what humans are capable of.
But tell me this, you know, when you are doing a portrait of somebody, I suppose you take a photograph of the person.
Yes, I primarily work
You
with
meet the
photographs.
person, you had dinner with Andrew, and you chat to him when you go to the movie. What about finding out what Andrew did you feel you had to show in this picture? Is there something about the mood, his humility, something about Andrew that you felt you could show in this picture?
Well, in this particular case, which is always the case when I work with a living person, it's very much about them. It's very much for them. I paint what I call hero portraits, or at least that's what I'm striving for.
Right.
So on the good days, it's a celebration of all you've accomplished. On the bad days, it's a reminder of who you were striving to be and what you're still capable of. So that you can get up wondering how you're going to put one foot in front of the other that day and get to my portrait, and hopefully you go, oh yes, that's who I'm striving to be.
So the portrait has a lot to do with the artist, what the artist sees.
Yes, it does.
Right?
I'm afraid it does.
What you're seeing, in a way, it says a lot more about the artist, don't you think?
I'm sure you're right.
Right.
I'm sure you're right.
So what were you seeing? What's the lens that got you there?
The lens, it's the same lens I use for everyone. My baseline is child of God.
Child of God.
Child of
Child
God.
of God.
Child
Tell me
of
about
God.
that. Tell me about that.
I believe that we are all children of God.
Yes.
So there's an equality you start with.
Not only an equality, but an equality or a universality of divine potential and parentage. And we lose sight of that in this temporal world. And we all do things that are less than godly
Right.
from time to time. But we all are children of God. That's my baseline.
So your baseline is we are all children of God.
And I'm trying to show that to people.
Right. So when you met Andrew, what happened? You had dinner with him.
I did.
And you obviously found out a bit about him. Tell us about how that evolved into the portrait.
Well, the very beginning was I discovered him on YouTube. I'm a big fan of gentlemen's fashion.
Right.
I beg your pardon, style. Of gentlemen's clothes. I'm not at his level yet, but I'm working.
So
I'm striving for it.
You shared an interest in
Yes.
that, right.
And I discovered one of his videos on YouTube where he was describing to someone his signature style. And I got so thrilled by it. First of all, he's just a charming person to listen to speak. But as he was going through the details of the garment, and this is the thing that I do that's different than everybody else, and this is why. And not only was it his attention to detail, but it was the details he was paying attention to, was so like what I would obsess over, that I thought, I found my tailor. he's mad like I am. And so I got thrilled by that. I approached him about painting his portrait. I offered to paint his portrait because I also recognized that if my work were seen in his shop, it would expose me to a logical audience for what I do.
Right, right.
The people who are visiting him will be inclined to the kind of
So
work
you-
that I do potentially.
So you never painted someone from England before?
Living or dead.
Either?
I painted several Winston Churchill, one of the Queen.
Right.
I've painted, terribly sorry.
You've done historical figures?
Yes, I've done historical
When
figures.
you think of portraits, you think of, the Law Society, which is why I go and you see these portraits of very old people in the world, you never really look at them.
Right.
But this is entirely different. This is a living, modern sort of person here. What are you conveying in this picture? Are you showing a successful person? What is that picture saying to us?
Sure.
Let's have a look at it. Yeah. Can everyone see that? Yeah, from where you are? Talk us through this picture.
It's of Andrew, obviously, but it's also about Andrew. And so some of the objects are all things that he has in his shop, and they all tell part of the history. Pieces of antique furniture that he acquired. But I believe this piece Mr. Sedwell had in his original shop. Yeah. And the couch he obtained from a shop that had previously appeared in film production. And so the little bits and things are all part of the story. However, the photograph I painted from, which included all of this, was very vibrant and colorful. And so I had to play a number of games as an artist to wrangle all of that color and detail and keep the focus on him.
Tell us a little bit about the use of color and the images that you create with the color. It looks like a very serious place, a place where you have serious suits being made. How did you use the color? His suit is blue there. Is it blue?
It's a very dark blue.
Right.
It's a blue and black houndstooth check.
Right.
That's one of the most curious things, because in the photograph, which some of you may have seen, it's this vibrant electric blue in the photograph. And I was starting to paint it that way, and something in my intuition said, check with him before you carry on. And so I did, and he said, oh, no. And he sent me a photo of the swatch of the fabric. And I had to start all over again on the suit. But I'm so glad I did, because with that vibrant blue color, it was even more vibrant than this, it would have been a painting about a suit with a head on top.
I see, right.
It would have just overwhelmed everything.
Yeah.
So
And what about the hands? Why like that? Why not like that?
that's what his hands were doing in the
Is that
photograph.
right? So you just follow what
Yeah,
you were
just
doing?
follow the positioning of everything is just as it was in the photograph. I strive for realistic and accurate detail, but I also strive to allow a painting to be a painting. I have zero interest in making paintings that are pretending to be photographs. And so there is some looseness here and there, there's some blurring of detail here and there to keep the reality of painting visible.
What I thought, Cameron, does anyone have any questions about the picture they'd like to ask Cameron, or any observations? I thought it'd be great if someone had a question. Yeah, someone at the back. Yeah, sure.
Hi. So you were speaking early on in the interview about using the artist's lens in order to create the
Yes.
imagery.
Yes.
I actually wondered what influences you more, the way Andrew sees himself, the way the public or other people who know Andrew sees himself, or how you perceive him when you
It's a very good question. Thank you. Yeah.
There's probably no way for me to separate how I see. I'm stuck inside of myself. And so there's no way for me to avoid the me filter. So what I do is, as I said a moment ago, I strive to adhere to my baseline, which is child of God, and I'm trying to show that incredible potential. I'm trying to inject that into the painting, and I'm trying to crystallize a vision of that tremendous potential in each rendering of a person. Of course, Andrew's personality influenced me once I got to know him better and better. Along with that baseline is I have to love the person I'm painting.
messages that you have.
And see, I have this theory. I don't want to waffle on and bore you too badly. But we know about toxic radiation from things like uranium and plutonium. You can't see it, smell it, feel it, but it's poisonous. Well, why should we assume that that's the only kind of radiation that exists? Based on my experience with other artists' work, I have this theory that whatever energy the artist is giving off while they're creating gets stuck in the work, and that can be felt ever after as a kind of radiation. And so I stop adjusting my glasses, I'll just take them off. So I strive to achieve a vibration or a feeling, an emotion of love before I start working. Else I don't work because I don't want any negative emotions to get stuck into somebody else's work that they're going to live with. Because one of the things about portrait painting that is very unique, you could say immortality. If I say the Mona Lisa, or the girl with a pearl earring, or the Mask of Tutankhamun, you know exactly which works I'm talking about. And one of the things they all have in common is they're all portraits. And even though exactly who the girl with the pearl earring is or was has been lost to history, people remain obsessed with her, wondering about her life, who she was. They're still researching it. There'll probably be 100 more books written on it, and 1,000 have already been written. And so portrait painting grants a genuine kind of immortality, even if it's only an idea about a certain aspect of a person.
So should we get another question?
When you talk about the radiation, is it the connection you'll had together?
That's certainly going to form part of it.
Yeah.
And
okay. Well, just so that in Trinidad language, you say, "My blood take him," you know. But of all the, is this the only? Did you choose this photograph, or
No,
was this
no, this was
one
his
given
choice.
to you? Okay.
in fact, he showed me 3 photographs from the same photo session. And if it had been up to me, I would have chosen a different one. But I wasn't doing this for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
So
was for them.
as this concept of the blood taking is interesting. It means you like the person, you were feeling, but it's
Right.
an intangible thing as you're describing. It's something you feel, it's an
Yes.
aura of the person you
Yes.
get, which then gives you the painting.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other? Yes.
Linked to that, you said earlier that in order to do a portrait, you have to love the person.
Yes.
Which links to us being children of God. That you express so well the dignity that we all come with.
Yes.
In this, if you're a child of God, you have innate dignity.
Yes.
And that comes across quite well. So.
Oh, I'm quite
Excellent
glad.
point. Excellent point.
I mean, I have painted some people that I don't care for very much. And so to achieve that love, sometimes I have to know less about someone. That was not a problem with Andrew. The more I got to know him, the more I got to love him. He's become a very dear friend at this point.
We have another question in the front here.
I was just going to say what I love about this picture is the shadow work, the attention to detail, and the most important thing for me looking at this picture today, it now becomes part of the documentation of the success
Yes.
of this gentleman and the smile. So the energy that comes from that, you picked a picture that generates,
The
so
smile.
anytime someone sees it, they're going to see the smile of success,
Yes.
and it's actually going to motivate people, generations of young people from the Caribbean background,
Yes.
Certainly
yes.
as they
hope so.
see it. So I think, thank you.
Certainly hope so.
You're right. He looks
That's
successful.
yes,
he
you
looks
can.
like he's happy.
It says yes, you can.
It's not the days of the room in North
And I love
London.
that message.
Definitely. And let's have one last question. Any other questions?
Who draws the frame?
Sorry?
The frame.
The frame.
He did.
It's a really great frame.
Yeah, the frame is good. Yeah.
He did.
He framed it. One question over there. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm an artist as well. I don't work in oil. And working on portraits I try to avoid because of the sort of dynamic that happens. I work more with buildings and architecture.
Okay.
But my question is about whenever I do a painting, I feel as though there's, every single time, there's a point of panic
Oh,
that
yeah.
happens
Oh, yes.
in any form of artwork, be it writing, be it painting, be it architecture, be it whatever it is. When did that panic set in, and how did you overcome that panic?
They want to know your secrets, Cameron.
That's all right. There's maybe as an artist, she wants. If I know something she doesn't, maybe I can. I probably don't. But I manage that in a couple of ways. I work very slowly. A work this size takes me between 6 months and a year.
Yeah.
Mostly because some of the special effects techniques I have to wait for the paint to dry underneath before I put more on. Sometimes I just have to put it aside for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do something else. Let it talk to me for a while to tell me what it needs. There's very much an order of operations that is ambiguous throughout the process. It's like, okay, this needs to go there, this goes next to that, so I have to do this detail before that, and that kind of planning. And that's always different from one work to the next. In this particular painting, the Persian rug had me questioning my life choices more than once. I don't really think of myself as a detail artist, but when I observe what I act out, I kind of am. But your question, it's a great one, because every artist, I think, goes through that, and you have to find your own way of managing that, because it probably never goes away.
So you've got lots of nods from the artists.
Yeah, she's
You're
like
in the right territory.
Yeah. I did play some tricks with that rug in particular, because we were talking about color earlier.
Yes.
So in artwork, there's a couple things, one called range of values. And full range of values would be going all the way to black and all the way to white. The only place in this portrait that has a full range of values is Andrew himself. Everything else, this is part of how I wrangled the details of the photograph. Everything else is almost black and almost white. And that distinction helps move the focus towards him. The second was I kind of ignored the precise colors of the rug and instead repeated colors. So there's some of the color of the fitted carpet in the rug and in the ties, and the colors of the ties are repeated in the rug.
Picked up the different colors.
And to tie it all together,
Yeah.
instead of having
Yeah.
this abundance of individual colors, it kind of helped tie the background and the scene together by
Yes.
repeating things.
I mean, what I like about this is that I actually feel Andrew is actually sitting there.
Mhm.
And you did a great job of that sofa. So I have seen Andrew on that sofa sitting
Yes.
like that.
And he warned me, no one but him is allowed to sit on the arm of that
It
sofa.
feels like he's really sitting there, not over there. So those are the questions. But tell us, just to round this off, and I don't want to be very long because Andrew has to do his speech. And what did you really, tell me two things you found about Andrew that really struck you from him sitting and you having the photograph and painting. And two things perhaps about Trinidad, because we are all an audience of Trinidadians here.
Yes.
Which came to you from doing this work.
Well, Andrew is the first Trinidadian I've met and gotten to know at all, really. I don't want to offend or embarrass anyone by Googling facts about Trinidad and trying to impress you by repeating them.
No. We want authenticity.
I know very little about Trinidad, but I have met island people from multiple islands throughout my life. And you all seem to have a few things in common. You're all very warm and open people. You all tend to be exuberant and very expressive, very colorful. And you have a tremendous resiliency that seems to be unique to islanders. And perhaps it's a product of being islanders, bounded by the ocean. And if we haven't got it on our little strip of land, we don't have it. So figure it out with what you've got. And that's a tremendous quality to develop.
Yes.
It gives you tremendous strength and resiliency.
I think everyone here would agree with you. A great sense of pride in who they are. They know who they are, Trinidadians.
And I certainly hope you are.
Yeah.
You recognize that in yourselves. It's a tremendous thing to have. Far too many people these days look outside for someone to solve their problems. And the difficulty with that is, well, if you give away the solution, the solving of your problem to someone else, you now have to wait on them to solve it, if they solve it, if they care, and maybe they solve it in the way you want them to, but probably not, and certainly not when you want it
So
solved.
we like things quick.
Yeah. So
We don't want to wait that long.
the fastest route to solutions is to take full responsibility for them, even if it's not your fault.
So Cameron, thank you so much for this incisive view and explanation of it. Can we have another?